Let's get this straight right off the bat. We are not sponsored by Stihl, but we do like their products. We have 4 different chainsaws here. These are multi-generational chainsaws because I inherited this one and this one from my dad about a year ago. But I'm a little bit, I don't know, disenchanted with Stihl here lately. A couple years ago, I bought this Pro model saw, and this is the MS241. You can tell it's the Pro model because it usually has a 1 at the end instead of a 0. And it was their smallest Pro model because I have shoulder and arthritis issues and I wanted a light production firewood chainsaw. We don't heat with wood out here on Piney Grove. It's Florida. We don't have a lot of cold winters. So therefore, we don't need the best chainsaw out there, but I thought I'd treat myself and get this Pro model. And it was probably pushing $600. They don't have this available in the USA anymore, so if you buy this overseas, it's $1,000. I can't say that I was overly impressed with it. From day one, it was leaking gas, and I took it, this was during the pandemic, I took it back to Ace Hardware, which was my servicing dealer, where I bought it actually. They said from the factory, the fuel tank wasn't vented correctly, so they vented it. And I don't know what that means. I don't know if they drilled a few holes back here or whatever, but the girl that took it from one Ace to another, where there was a technician, said it leaked all over in her car, and it still leaks a little bit of gas. I'm just not used to that. It's a high quality product. All the rest of these don't leak gas. There's no gas fumes. With this saw, I have to empty it. I've got to empty the gas tank, and then I keep it inside of a steel case right here so that it doesn't stink up my workshop. As far as power and all that, I feel like it's a little bit underpowered. It's got an 18-inch bar, but it's a good running saw. Now that it's broke in, I find that it's enjoyable as far as lightweight. It starts pretty good, but I feel like it's time to try something else. So that's what we're gonna do in today's video. Let me go grab it. So this will be the unboxing of this chainsaw. I just got it in the mail, and I'll be 100% upfront with you. It was sent to me for free, and they asked me to test it. And so the way I'm going to test it is I'm going to cut with this chainsaw, and I'm going to cut with the Stihl chainsaw that's most comparable, which is that 241C model that we talked about a few minutes ago. All right, let's see what they sent me in the box. So we have a chain guard here, or bar guard, and we have a 22-inch bar. And that's going to be something that may come in as a big factor because this is a 3.1 brake horsepower saw. I think it's 40-some cc. I'll throw all the specs on the screen so I don't get them wrong. But I know that it's the same brake horsepower, which is 3.1, as the Stihl saw that we mentioned. So it's be interesting to see how it slings a 22-inch bar in some seasoned oak. But it comes with one canister here of 2-stroke oil, some chain lube or chain oil, the chain, and it comes with a scrunch and a couple of Allen tools and of course instructions. Oh, it also has a mixing jug, and these are handy. I actually have one that I bought myself, but with these you can put in the amount of oil in here and then the corresponding amount of gas, and it gets the mix right for you. And this is real easy. You can buy these nowadays where you just put this with 1 gallon of gas and there's no worries about did you measure it right or wrong. Most saws are going to run with either 40-to-1 or 50-to-1 oil, 2-stroke oil in your gas. And I also recommend using non-ethanol gas, but this is not a video about how to maintain your saw, but is it worthwhile to pay $600 for a saw when for $149 I can have one of these, and assuming it cuts well, and we'll see that in a few minutes, I could have 4 of these before I ever met the purchase price of that Stihl. We can argue whether it's a better saw or a worse saw than a Stihl. We can argue about the longevity, but we can't argue about the price, especially for someone that doesn't cut wood that often. We do not go through cords of wood here. We might use a chainsaw 10 days a year. So from a, I don't know, financial analysis standpoint, maybe it makes more sense to buy a budget bargain chainsaw. You know, if it doesn't last 20 years, then maybe after 5 years throw it away and you get 20 years out of it for the same price as a Stihl. I'm not saying you should do that. It's just things that I've been thinking about because like I said, I haven't been satisfied with that 241. Step 1, add fuel. Step 2, put on the bar and put in the chain oil, engage the chain brake, and doesn't have a step 4, but I assume step 4 is start. And then it has this little thing here that shows you how to start it. I got the bar and chain on, and one thing I'll say that I don't really like for the design is that the chain adjuster or the tension adjuster is actually on this piece that comes off here, the chain guard or this cover here, rather than it being where the studs are that the bar mounts to, so that you can set all this in place and then put this on top. And that just requires you a little bit more time lining that hole up. But I got that on, I got the gas in it, the oil in it. It has a primer bulb, so we'll prime it to get that carburetor primed and full of gas. And it has the on-off switch down here, right where your thumb is, which is good for a kill switch close by so that you don't have to hunt for it. But I've heard from folks that while they're using it, that sometimes with gloves on, they'll end up accidentally cutting the saw off or turning the saw off. And that's really the only complaint that I saw out there online. I did some research just to see what I was getting into here. And here's the choke. So it says pull the choke out and then pull start it 6 times and then push it back in and it should start. Now I throw start my saw like that. It's the way I've done it all my life, and it's a practice I can't get out of. But they show in the instructions to put it on the ground and put your foot here to start it. That's not how I'm going to start it, because that's not how I start. Doesn't look like it has a trigger lock, so I'm just going to leave the throttle like that. Turn it on, pull out. Well, I don't know. It seems to want to start differently than what I'm used to. Like, I don't feel the compression, so I'm going to try and do it their way. Okay guys, I got a confession to make. I put the chain on wrong, and that's why it wouldn't start. And you can see I've got it taken apart here because I was going to put it back in the box and send it back to the manufacturer and tell them I can't make a video on a chainsaw that I can't even start. And I have had chainsaws for over 40 years. There's nothing really special about this one, but it has I guess a roller sprocket on it, and I didn't have the chain in that. Let me show you. So that's the centrifugal clutch right there, and the sprocket's always right there. Whether that clutch is where this black piece is or the clutch is on the outside, all chainsaws are going to have a sprocket right there. Inside of there, there's a collar, and that collar has a bunch of slots in it, and your chain has these little dogs on the bottom that roll in those slots. So what I had done was I got the chain in here, and I got it jammed between the sprocket and the side of the clutch, and I thought it was engaged with the sprocket because it would turn. Well, what I didn't have was these little teeth in that roller sprocket right there. The proper way to put this in would be like that. So it's right over top of that roller on that sprocket right there. And the reason why it wouldn't start with that in the wrong place is because the engine has to be able to freewheel while the clutch is not engaged, and it couldn't because that chain was jammed in there. So it was literally like, you know, trying to start this engine and holding the piston with your hand. The piston couldn't gain any momentum and start the combustion motion. So anyway, it started, it ran really good. Let's get it back together and start it properly, and then let's go cut some wood. If you're not familiar with the I and the O, that's the way you want the switch to be. You don't want it like that. You want that pushed in, the I pushed in. I got the choke off because I've already started it. Should start right up. It sounds pretty mean. I'm going to go ahead and run it in. Got my lovely assistant, Miss Piney Grove here. She's going to be using the timer to time the cuts just for a fair fight. Although I don't have a 22-inch bar for the same horsepower, I did put a brand new bar and a brand new chain on here. So both of them, both the saws have new bars, new chains, same brake horsepower, different CCs. The Bilt Hard is 56 cc, and I think the Stihl is 44, 45. I'll splash it up here on the screen. And what we're going to do is we're just going to cut chunks of the seasoned oak and just see how fast each saw can go through it. It's not a very scientific test, but it definitely will show us how much power that Bilt Right has, and see if it's any faster or any slower than a Stihl. All right, let's get to it. All right, let's try the Big Blue Bilt Hard. Okay, hopefully that's focused. 19.43.
But wait a minute, I got an add-on.
What you got?
This angled off there, so it's not the full circumference. Does that matter?
Bilt Hard is not going to like you.
I'm just saying.
All right, we're talking 11-inch tray. We'll do some more. In fact, we'll do another one right now. Let me see, 17.18 seconds, 2 seconds quicker. And we had a little bit thicker log to go through. And that is some really seasoned, dense oak right there. We got a 22-inch bar, and we're in 11 inches of some of the toughest wood that there can be, and that's seasoned oak. I think this is red oak. Smells like red oak anyway. And I'll tell you, if that chainsaw was in 22 inches of seasoned oak, it would be struggling. But it did that fine, put out nice big chips, throttle, everything was smooth. But at the initial go, it doesn't have a lot of power. And that could be because it's not broken yet. The Stihl has power from the very beginning. But let's see, again, the Stihl is pushing a smaller or a shorter bar.
That's pretty. It's pretty wood.
She likes my wood. Brand new chain, brand new bar. What we got? Oh boy, the Stihl screamed through it. 11 seconds, almost 12 seconds.
Like a hot knife through butter.
So how much quicker was that? Like 5 seconds or so quicker?
I don't know, you have to review the tape. I'm not committing.
We'll consult the camera later. Ready?
Well, I goofed that up because
okay, no, that's fine. We can. They trust us.
I had a delay. Well, no, I had a delay hit and stop.
So just explain it. So it's 12 and a. It was over 12 that time, but you had at least a second delay, right?
Yeah, I had a delay because I wanted the camera to focus on the log, so I pulled it away for a second. Well, then when he went through it fast, I hit stop a little bit late. So it says 12.4, but it was quicker than that. So you want to do another one?
Do you want to cut?
Kinda.
All right, let's do it. Come over here and put some good hearing protection on, and we'll get Deb's time. Try the Stihl first.
What am I doing wrong?
You're just pushing down too fast. You gotta.
I'm doing too fast?
you got to adjust how much you push down on the saw. You want 90 degrees, you want to be perpendicular, and you want all your body, so if the saw goes through, when it cuts through, it won't get your leg. So you don't want to stand like this, you don't want to stand like that. You want to stand where all of you're squared up like this, but if it goes through, you can imagine if that saw came through, it's going to go straight through like that.
Yeah, the few times I've cut, it's been on the ground. And I was worried about the big log chunk falling on me.
Okay, so for you, what we're trying to get, since we're not timing it, is just kind of the different feel between the two saws. And is this saw at $150, or is that saw at $600 worth 4 times or 3 times this saw? That's basically what the video is about.
Oh, I got you.
And we're not worried about weight. We know that the Bilt Hard weighs more. But what'd you think about power and smoothness?
Well, if I were better at it, when it went through, when I didn't goof it up, it went through smooth, but I think the Stihl has more power and it's quicker.
The Bilt Hard is, because it's a 22-inch bar and chain, it's struggling to get the momentum. And then once it's full momentum, you're good. But if you feel like if you were in bigger logs, you'd probably be able to stop that chainsaw. So I think that Bilt Hard probably needs like an 18-inch bar like the Stihl does. What about smoothness though? What do you feel like vibrations and stuff? Which one was better?
The Stihl.
Yeah.
I mean, because I literally, when I was done, my hands felt vibrating.
That's exactly what I got, is that the Stihl was smoother. It starts easier. So there is some benefit to the more expensive Stihl, but is it 4 times the amount? I don't know. I think for someone that is doing just occasional wood cutting like we're doing, $150 for the Bilt Hard, and you've got a good saw so far, right? We've only cut a few pieces of wood. We can't tell you what it's going to be doing, 10 years from now.
Yeah.
But if you only need a saw for occasional use, then 150 sounds, a lot easier to swallow than 600.
Oh, absolutely. If you're only cutting firewood, a little bit of firewood here and there, or the occasional small tree on your property, $150 for that saw is a steal. I think that's a great...
A steal?
I didn't mean that.
Unintended pun.
$150 for that saw is a bargain.
Is a bargain. So
Truly.
Yeah, so guys, that's all we can really give you. I mean, we try to present the information as it appears in front of us. We're not trying to gloss over things. I think it's a good saw if you're not going to be using a saw day in and day out for a living. That's not to say it wouldn't last or be able to do it for a living, but the Stihl starts easier, it has less vibration, and it revs up quicker. So it's up to you what you want to spend money on, but the difference between 150 and 600 is $450. You can do a lot with $450.
Absolutely.
That's going to do it for today's video. We sure appreciate you guys watching. We'll catch you on the next one.
Take care.
Take care, y'all. Okay, guys, I know we've already said goodbye once in this video, but I wanted to be fair to this saw. And after Deb left, I just kept cutting with it. And I cut up these 3 logs I had. First, I took the gum and I cut them long ways, and that's real hard for a saw to do because it involves so much of the bar, and you can put a lot of pressure into the cut with your bucking teeth. And I can kill this saw, but it is pretty strong. I did all of these pieces, cutting them long ways. I even took it into a piece of dry pine and completely buried the 22-inch bar. And by having a little bit of finesse, I could keep the saw at a high RPM. Now I had to have the trigger mashed wide open, but just kind of eased it into the wood and not let it, and not overbog it, not give it too much work to do. And it spit out some of the biggest, I guess this isn't really even sawdust, but these strings of wood when you go vertical, or when you go, you don't cross cut wood. And these things are 6 and 8 inches long. And some of that is because it's got a new chain and it's a very aggressive chain. But also the saw has to handle that. It has to have the power to power through that. So I would say that it makes its power later into the power band. It doesn't make it right away. Like the Stihl revs up quick. And you can bog down this saw if you don't give it a chance to rev up. With a Stihl, it revs up right away. You can bury it in wood and it's going to do what it's going to do. But this saw needs a little bit more finesse. It's not as vibration proof, or doesn't have as many vibration dampeners if it has any on it, so you can feel the vibration in your bones. But again, for $150, this saw will do a lot of work, and I'm more impressed with it now, 30 minutes later, than I was when I said goodbye in the last video. So anyway, check it out. It might be something for you. It might not be. Maybe you like Echo or Husqvarna or something like that. But I think for $150, you probably can't go wrong with this saw right here. All right, guys, that's the end of the video.